Welcome to All Villa, No Filler. Remember to subscribe to the show, follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. This is a Dutch special. We're focusing on one player Villa look close to signing. Feyenoord's 19-year-old striker Zepiqueno Redmond, easy for me to say. We'll also look at two players Villa have been heavily linked with in Igor Paixao and Johan Bakayoko. Today, I'm joined by Dutch football expert Joe Baker. He's been based in the Netherlands as a freelance football writer for the last 4 years and formerly ran an Eredivisie blog called The Oranje. Joe, great to chat to you again. Had you on a few times before. Always give me great insights. First of all, Zepiqueno Redmond, Zepiqueno, we'll find out eventually what it is.
Yeah.
He's the closest to Villa, it looks like. It looks like that's going to be going ahead soon.
Yeah.
Who is he?
Yeah, so firstly, the name, don't worry about it. We could just call him Redmond, maybe Zeppy Redmond. I'd be interested to see what songs get sung about him. I know if Chelsea had Azpilicueta, they just ended up calling him Dave. So maybe he'll be called Dave Redmond or something, I'm not sure. But yeah, so Redmond's the one, I believe, about a month ago was reported the contract agreement had been made, but he was in Birmingham with his agent to sign on a free from Feyenoord. Who is he? He's a 19-year-old centre forward. He came through the Feyenoord Academy, or he joined Feyenoord in 2019. He's just turned 19, so he's still very, very young. Obviously, Feyenoord have produced a fair amount of good centre forwards down the years. Robert van Persie, obviously, being one of them. He was pretty prolific at academy level with Feyenoord. So I think he scored like 31 goals over 3 and a bit seasons through the different youth levels in Rotterdam. So under 17s up to the under 20 team. And he broke into the first team last year. I wouldn't get too carried away with him just yet. He didn't play that much last season. But he did get a couple of goals. He scored 2 goals in the Dutch Cup, I think in 9 appearances across all competitions. I mean, I think the moment that really caught people's attention was when he randomly started for Feyenoord in the Champions League knockout stage away to AC Milan in the first playoff round in the San Siro. And the Feyenoord coach at the time was, I think he'd either just lost his job or was about to. They had a lot of injuries. He wasn't expected to play in that game, but he started, played 63 minutes and looked pretty decent. So 4 goals across the course of that season. And if anyone's been following the under-19 Euros, he actually scored twice the other night against England as well. So that's who he is. He's, in terms of the type of player he is, he's quick. He can play across the front line. He is predominantly a centre forward, but he can play across that front line. As he's young, he's obviously still learning that versatility. Interesting to see where he ends up moving forwards. And in terms of his main attributes, he's direct. He's strong for his age. I think he's confident. We clearly saw that with how he played in Milan last season. And he likes to shoot early, which is always good. He's not afraid to pull the trigger, which is obviously a good thing in a centre forward.
Yeah, and so how highly rated is he within the Netherlands itself?
So this is honestly quite a tricky one to answer because he hasn't actually played very much. So I don't want to be a damp squib and ruin the excitement for Villa fans. But he hasn't played very much first team football yet, and he's still just playing the under-19s at international level. So I've just seen minutes ago that Harvey Elliott scored a banger for England in the 21s to knock the Netherlands out. Rather, that was the final than the semi-final. But I noticed that Redmond wasn't even picked in the squad for that. So how much can we read into that? I don't know. Maybe the Dutch coach had other strikers he preferred, a bit more experience at that level. But I would have thought that if he was really banging on the door of being one of the most exciting young players or young forwards in the Netherlands, he may have been picked for that squad. Having said that, coaches, if you look at the quotes from those who coached him at youth level, all rate him really, really highly. There's a reason Feyenoord signed him at the age of just 13. As I say, he impressed with the appearances he did make last season. But domestically in the Netherlands, it's very hard to gauge how much he's rated just because he hasn't played enough football yet. I must say on a personal level, as someone who watches Feyenoord a lot, I was disappointed that he didn't play more once Robert van Persie became head coach. I can't tell you the reason for that was. It might have been because the club knew that Redmond was running down his contract, so they wanted to obviously play with guys who were there for the long term. He only played 11 minutes from November on to the end of the season in the Eredivisie. And considering finals, two main strikers in the back half of the season were an Argentinian guy called Carranza and a Japanese striker called Ueda, neither of whom are particularly prolific, you would have thought that would have been a good chance for Redmond to strut his stuff and keep improving. But we'll see. So it's short answer. It's kind of hard to say right now.
And yeah, I mean, it seems a bit of an odd one, given that, like, he's not really featured that much for Feyenoord, and yet could very soon be heading to the Premier League for one of the top teams in it, dare I say. Are you surprised at that Premier League link, or do you think he has the physical attributes to maybe suit English football?
Am I surprised? Yes and no. I think it's one of those things. I think Spurs were linked as well. AC Milan were linked too. There's a real trend at the moment, sparked by Chelsea a few years ago, to really find the best young talent as soon as possible, put them on long contracts. There's a big upside to those sorts of moves, moves without too much of a disadvantage, particularly if he's someone who's available on a free contract. Before I get to the question about the physicality, I think he could have done with one more year in the Eredivisie. And to be clear, I'm not saying he's not a good player, but I'd have liked to have seen him play a bit more first-team football before. He's gone from basically a squad player in the Eredivisie to potentially being a Premier League footballer. However, he is a talent. As I say, there's a real market at the moment for these sorts of players. It's particularly hard to find strikers at the moment. I mean, the figures being thrown around for some of the forwards at the moment in the transfer window. Your Seskos, Isaks, Gyökeres. I know Redmond's not the same level as that, of course, but the money is ridiculous. So Villa can find a player like Redmond who has gone under the radar, is young, is talented, has potentially a high ceiling. It could be a very good move, particularly as he's not having to actually spend any transfer fee on it. So it could be a very good long-term investment. I would hope that he wouldn't be sent on loan too fast. I'd like to see him in the squad and actually learning from strikers like Watkins and learning under Emery. Scouts put a lot of work into these sorts of moves these days, and you may know more than me, but I'd be very surprised if Emery hadn't had some sort of say within this and given his sign-off. So I'd be very interested to see how he develops in the Villa squad. I just hope he's not brought in on the free because it's a nice, easy move to make and then sent off on a random loan, like what Chelsea do with young players.
Yeah, I guess he'd come in and fill the John Duran-shaped hole of a young player coming in as a backup striker to Watkins, and then maybe can develop alongside him. And Villa have proven, with Duran that we can bring these young strikers through. Though Duran was despite his personal, whatever, I wouldn't say issues, but whatever it was off the pitch with him, he was a very, very talented guy. But do you, when you look at Redmond, what are his key or main attributes, would you say? I know you mentioned it before, but would you say it's like back to goal? Is that something that he looks good at? I did see him score a goal for the Dutch under 19s or 21s the other day, and they were that did seem to be how he scored.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's a hard one to judge because it's under 19 level rather than first team football. But I didn't actually answer your question properly before. He is physically strong. He does have pace. He does have versatility. I think we spoke back in January about Daniel Marlon, and one of the things I said about him was the advantage of having a squad player like him is he can play in multiple positions. And I think we saw as the season progressed, Marlon's role became more and more important, whether it was down the middle, out wide, or coming off the bench in either of those roles. So I wouldn't be surprised if he could be a bit of an option like that for Emery. I think having Marlon there actually would be very helpful for him to have that Dutch link there. And I think, who's the defender Villa have as well? I can't remember his name, Smeelers or something. He's a centre half. I think he might be Dutch. Maybe I'm making someone up. But I think there's other Dutch.
Still Swinkles.
Swinkles, there you go. In the squad too. So that'd be helpful for him. I think next season, if he does play, you'll see him playing out wide. I think young strikers, you don't tend to see them straight away, unless you're built like Liam Delap. I don't think you necessarily go straight into being an out-and-out forward. I think you get bullied off the pitch. So maybe as someone who sometimes plays out wide, cutting in, as I said, he's fast, he's direct, could be really useful on the break, whether you're playing against a team like City, where Villa may be sitting deeper, or in the last 10, 20 minutes of matches where the game's opening up. Getting him on is a really good option on the counter-attack when there's more space. Or sometimes, I think we said with Marlon previously, if Emery ever wants to go with two up front for part of a match, I could see Redmond linking up quite well with Watkins in that sense. I think, look, the Eredivisie isn't the same quality as the Premier League. We all know that, and I've seen it firsthand in lots of ways as well. But also, they do create a lot of very talented young players that also can't be denied either. So whilst it sounds like I'm being a bit negative about Redmond, I do think there's a potentially high ceiling for him. And in terms of goals he scores, it's hard to say because he's not scored that many in first-team football yet.
Okay, well, exciting stuff there. We'll see how that one works out. But obviously now Villa have also been linked with another Feyenoord man in Igor Paixao. I'll ask the same question. Who's he?
Who is he? So Paixao is someone I've watched a lot of. When I first started going to Eredivisie games at Feyenoord, it was in his first season at the club. So that was the 2022-2023 season. He is a Brazilian left winger. He turns 25 this month. He's been at Feyenoord for 3 seasons now. Before then, he was at a club called Curitiba in Brazil, and he played quite a key role actually in helping them go up a couple of promotions into the Brazilian top division. He was called up for the Brazil international squad for the first time back in March, but then to the pre-squad, so to speak, but then didn't make it into Ancelotti's most recent squad. And he's coming off the back of his most successful season of his career so far. So in 47 appearances in all competitions, he scored 18 goals and 14 assists, which is pretty impressive. He's predominantly a left winger, but he can play off the right. So that's, in a nutshell, who Igor Paixao is.
Okay, and where would you say his sort of best position is, and what are his best attributes?
Yeah, good question. So I've actually been fortunate enough in a way to see him develop quite a lot in the last 3 seasons. I found him an extremely frustrating player at first. Like a lot of wingers who've got talent, you have to, I guess, when you're coach or fans as well, you have to kind of make a judgment over, is this guy worth the patience? Is he going to develop into a top winger, or is he going to, I don't mean to bash this guy I'm about to say, but he's going to turn into like an Anthony. Anthony could still be quite good, but you see where I'm going with that. Yeah. What is better, as I see more and more of him, he has developed some very certain traits that make him particularly effective. He loves to cut inside off the left. He's got a really strong right-footed shot on him. He's not a selfish player. I think sometimes they sort of forwards, they cut inside, you just know they're going to shoot. He gets his head up, he likes to cross the ball. Like any Brazilian, he likes to dribble. He's happy playing within spaces, maybe in that number 10 role sometimes as well. Runs his socks off. So I was at the Feyenoord Bayern Munich game in the Champions League last season. One of the best games I've been to in years, because it was just so funny seeing Bayern miss again and again and again. And Paixao ran his socks off. Feyenoord had loads of injured players. He's basically playing as a lone striker at times, and his sprinting backwards and forwards, his pressing was absolutely brilliant. That shouldn't be taken for granted with Brazilian players. I know I'm stereotyping there a bit, but he was giving everything. Sorry, Brazilian attacking players, let me caveat. He was giving everything for the team. So I like his attitude. He works hard, he gets stuck in. I think he can be selfish, like you want in a forward, but he's also can be quite selfless as well. Strong off both feet, I would say too. The advantages of him, he can go both ways, which is really good. But I have to say to make this balance, say some of the frustrations I referred to. He can still be quite inconsistent and unpredictable. That can be both a plus and negative of a wide creative player. Some of his output still needs improving at times, his decision making at times, but in a way you're not going to be able to judge that properly until he starts playing at a proper high level. And I do think he looked quite good in the Champions League last season. I would say that he's maybe a little bit lightweight. It's really hard to judge how a good attacking player in the Eredivisie will fare regularly in the Premier League, and it's the same, I would say, for Redmond too. But I would say, I mean, I think he's valued around like 35 million euros, maybe about 30 million pounds. He could be a good option for Villa as part of their squad.
Okay, it's good to hear that. 16 goals in 34 league games last season.
Yeah.
Not bad at all, to be honest. But there is another Dutch player based in the Netherlands that we've also been linked with, Johan Bakayoko, from PSV. So is it expected that he'll move on this summer from the Eredivisie?
Well, firstly, just to I don't know what the situation is with Leon Bailey with Villa. I'd read that Villa were maybe looking to sell him, move him on. I know that Morgan Rogers is maybe playing out wide a bit more. I know there's Ramsey to play a bit more next season, and Daniel Marlin too. So Villa have lots of options, these wide players. So I think just to say with Paixao as well, he could be worth a punt as a squad player. He's got a high development in his ceiling. Could be someone to bring in at a decent price. I think Bayer Leverkusen might be linked with him as well. So I would avoid a bidding war with them. I don't think he's worth that. But if he's available, go for him. In terms of Bakayoko, so he's actually from. He spent most of his career in PSV Eindhoven, but he's actually from Belgium. And if you'd asked me last season who I was most excited to see at the Euros, I would say Johan Bakayoko. He was having he had a fantastic 23-24 with PSV. I think he got something like 14 goals, 14 assists. But now you're asking me, he's not had a great season. He's fallen out of favour in the Belgian team, and from scoring 14 and getting 14 assists in 23-24, last campaign it was 12 goals and 3 assists, and he only actually started one of PSV's last 10 games. And I'm sure you will have seen the absolutely bonkers Eredivisie title race between PSV and Ajax.
Yeah,
it doesn't bode well that he was left out of that really crucial run in when PSV really hit some great form. He wasn't involved. I don't know I don't know the reasons for that. I'm not going to speculate, but maybe that's telling. Is he going to move this summer? PSV are in an odd position. They've just won 2 titles back to back. One before they were absolutely dominant. This time they came back with an incredible comeback over the last few games of the season. But they're having a big squad clear out. So Malik Tillman, really, really good attacking midfielder, United States international, is about to move to Bayer Leverkusen. I read earlier that Noah Lang, Dutch international left winger, is agreed terms with Napoli. Luuk de Jong, the top goal scorer captain, has not signed a new contract yet. Ivan Perisic, experienced winger, not signed a new contract yet. The Walter Benitez, number 1 goalkeeper, has left. Oscar Bascagli, their key centre-back, is going to Brighton. They're losing a lot of players. So I don't know whether that means they would want to lose Bakayoko as well, even though he has had a poor season before. They are getting money in. They are clearing space of their squad. So if a bid came in, Dutch clubs like to sell when there's players with good value, and Bakayoko has value. But I'm not as confident now after the season he's had and the context of the other players leaving, whether it would be an easy move to get him out of Eindhoven.
Okay, and Villa are just one of numerous Premier League clubs that have been linked with Bakayoko. Can you see why? Does he look like a player who could make that jump into the Premier League?
Yeah, I can definitely see why. I mean, as I said a year ago, I was so excited to see him play more at maybe a high level, and I thought he was on a similar trajectory to Jeremy Doku, just playing on a different side. They have similar characteristics. The difference being mainly Doku is a lot better right now, but they both like to dribble, take on players, very direct. We see a lot of wingers, Paixao being an example, with the first thought was a cut inside. It's quite refreshing to see wingers that like to go around the outside as well, getting chalk on the boots, but more old school. Bakayoko is very good at getting outside of his man and pulling the ball back into the box. Very direct, likes to shoot, skillful. He gets the ball, he's going to try and do something. That's great. So I can see why teams are interested in him. He's 22 years old, high ceiling for development. It's proven in the past in the Eredivisie and European football he can do well. And there's for me, I took a note on this earlier. I don't see too much of a difference between him and Jamie Gittins. there's so much noise made about Jamie Gittins of Borussia Dortmund, and don't get me wrong, he's a good player, but I wouldn't say he's done that much more for Dortmund over the last couple of years that Bakayoko's done for PSV. I know the Bundesliga is a better division, so I can see him, coming to the Premier League and doing well. And I don't think it'd be a huge fee. And then it's quite vogue in a moment in this PSR-driven world we live in to find young players with a high upsell, and Bakio could be one of them.
Yeah, and so as you mentioned, his favoured role is pretty much right wing, where Leon Bailey fits a Villa, and Leon Bailey looks like he's going this summer.
He's very much a right midfielder. I haven't got the stats for how many times he's played there compared to the left, but I went to a PSV game the last season with my brother and my dad, and he was playing on the right hand side, and you can see he really does hang on the touchline. You're not going to get him drifting aside. He really gives you that width. PSV get a lot more time on the ball than he would get in the Premier League, but then on the flip side, he's proven he can break down defensive just sitting deep, which is also a hard skill as a forward. What I would say, his assists needs to improve. I can't remember the number I gave earlier, but his assist numbers are quite low, which is not great for a winger. I looked at some scouting report of him earlier, and he's in the bottom. So this assessment from the last year of similar players, he's in the bottom 13 percentile for assists per 90 minutes.
Wow.
So he's really low as an attacking player in a team that's just won 2 back-to-back domestic titles. That's a bit concerning for me. So maybe if he was with Emery, learning from better players, there'd be an improvement. On the flip side of it, he's in the 98th percentile for non-penalty goals. So he's clearly got really strong output in terms of scoring goals, but he just hasn't got the assist level to it yet. Total shots, 96th percentile as well. He's a real threat in the final third, but he just doesn't have the full spectrum for his game yet. And if you put the metaphorical gun to my head and say who should Villa sign, Bakayoko or Paixao, I would say Paixao for that reason.
Wow. Okay, that's very interesting to hear. Because there's been a lot of noise about Bakayoko. I've been hearing about him for a couple of years. I do remember watching him in that great season he had and been sort of a bit blown away by him, actually. So Paixao is certainly a player I need to look at a bit more as well. And who knows, maybe I will be looking at him more if he joins the mighty Villa. Well, Joe, honestly, absolutely love chatting to you. Every time you come on, you always give such great informed commentary, and I'm sure it looks like it's going to be a very Dutch summer for Villa, and we're building our Dutch cohort of the Villa. Daniel Marlin, Ian Matson, got a couple of Belgians as well. So that part of the world does seem to be quite attractive to Villa at the moment. So I'm sure I'll be getting you on again in the very near future. But Joe, where can people find you and your work online?
Thanks. So I'm on X, Joe Baker 21. I'm on Blue Sky. I recently, if people are interested, had my first piece published by 442. If you want to have a hopefully an insightful summary of the absolutely bonkers Eredivisie finale, do head there to 442, check that out. But X Blue Sky is the main places to find me, and I'm popping up on the internet here and there.
Well,
and it's really good to be here again. So thanks for inviting me on.
Well, thank you, and congratulations on the 442, and sure there's plenty more to come from you. Thank you so much, Joe.